Welcome to my latest YouTube video. My name is Rosenberg, and today I'm going to talk to you about self-love deficit disorder recovery, or otherwise known as codependency recovery. Today, actually 20 minutes ago, I had this great psychotherapy session with a recovering SLD, or codependent, client, and she is one of many clients who are getting better one session at a time. And as many people already know about my work, the codependency cure, or the cure for self-love deficit disorder, is not learning what to do, what not to do, how to think, which are in many ways traditional forms of psychotherapy. It's not about making someone feel heard and validated. Again, traditional psychotherapy. It's resolving the unconscious elements of their personality that work against them, that compel them to repeatedly make the same mistake. And in the case of my SLD clients, that is to, vis-a-vis the human magnet syndrome, is fall in love with the same type of person over and over and over again. Or in other words, is for the SLD, codependent, to reflexively and habitually always find a narcissist as the most attractive, desirous, appealing partner. The challenge for SLDD recovery is not to, as I said before, get people to learn new elements or aspects about themselves or about narcissists. Although that's what we do. The challenge also is not for them to learn more about other people, which is also what we do. The challenge is to trace back the origins of their SLDD, to try to figure out where it comes from, and then once we get there, is to heal those trauma wounds. And as I've said in many a video, self-love deficit disorder is caused by attachment trauma, which is the experience of a child during his or her formative years being raised by a pathological narcissist. But this video is not about that, because this is all old information that many of you already know. So I have this client, and we're going to call her Janice, which is not her real name. And little by little, Janice is getting better. And I've been seeing Janice for a couple years. And today, she came into a session and talked about how she just went on Match.com and found another narcissist by accident, of course. And she was boasting, rightfully so, how proud she was of how quickly she was able to identify that he both was a pathological narcissist, but that he was not good for her. So we saw this as a tremendous, it was an example of tremendous growth, because SLDs can't see in others, can't perceive, can't recognize the narcissist unless they heal the wounds, the trauma wounds that actually caused their own disorder. It's just impossible. And I want to say this again, you cannot see in others what you don't and can't see in yourself. Now, this is a very important message that most psychotherapists know and many practice. We are unable to effectively work with others who have psychological problems or disorders which are caused by trauma or other moments of misfortune. We can't effectively work with others if we have those same problems, because what happens is we don't see it. A therapist who goes home and unwinds with a six-pack of beer every night and believes that's what everyone does because it just makes them feel good, might see a client who will say, hey, yeah, I'm drinking, after work just to deal with my anxiety. that therapist will probably not ask the client, so how many beers do you drink, or how many glasses of wine do you drink? If you are a codependent or an SLD psychotherapist, which many are, and I've gone on record by saying at least 85% therapists start their career as an SLD, and the good ones recognize that, and through their own personal psychological work become more healthy, more healed individuals, and they impact their clients greatly. But if you are not in recovery and you are a therapist and someone comes to you and says, you know, I'm a codependent and I read Melody Beattie's book, Codependency No More, or I read Pia Melody's book, or even my book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, and I want to get better. They often report to me the therapist had no idea on what to do with their codependency. No idea. So it goes back to, you can't expect a therapist to know how to treat self-love deficit disorder if they don't understand that it comes from attachment trauma that creates a core sense of shame that is semi-conscious, that creates intense experience of pathological loneliness that compels a person to find someone, some type of relationship to take that pathological loneliness away, and that is seeking, for lack of better words, seeking a drug or a way to self-medicate the feelings of loneliness. We call that SLDD addiction, and I have videos on that. I actually have a 3-hour video on that. And SLDD is an addiction. And then from the next level is the actual problem, what we call codependency. So if you are a therapist and you identify as someone with SLDD or codependency, or worse yet, you are a therapist who doesn't have a clue you are an SLD, self-love deficient, you are going to be completely blind, myopic to what the client's needs, completely blind to what the problem really is, and you're going to do what many therapists do, is they work with what they can see. Abraham Maslow said, to the man with a hammer, you only can see a nail. And that actually was misattributed to Mark Twain, and I'm actually not quoting it exactly. But to the therapist who is an SLD, who is not in recovery or not in good recovery, they can only go as far as what they recognize in others. And if you are in denial about your own SLDD, I promise you, your therapist will not be able to understand your own self-love deficit disorder, but be unable to solve it. Now that's the bad news. The good news is the good therapist, and many, if not most of my colleagues, are in their own therapy or have been in their therapy. It's actually indoctrinated in our graduate school studies and all jobs we get, is that we need to work on ourselves in order to be better and more complete therapists. And that's the good therapist. But this is not exactly why I'm doing this video. The point that I want to make in this video goes back to my client. And she came in today, all happy and excited, and said, you should be really proud of me. I went on Match.com, I met this guy, and within 3 or 4 sessions, I was able to recognize that he was a narcissist. And in this case, he was a covert narcissist. And I was able to set boundaries, and I'm going to break up with him. Now, of course, just the fact that someone is going out after 4 dates, that in itself is a red flag for self-love deficit disorder, but it is what it is. And I complimented her and I said, well, this is good. This is really good. You were able to see the problem. You were able to recognize it. But what made this even better was you had this intuitive, this reflexive feeling that something didn't feel right. And that's the human magnet syndrome. The human magnet syndrome is the unconscious feeling of attraction or repulsion based upon the matching of your self orientations. If you are a pathological caregiver or someone with SLDD, codependent, you always are going to unconsciously be attracted to a pathological narcissist. If you are healthy and you like to take care of people, and you're going to fall in love with someone who's healthy, with someone who's more on the self side. So I said to her, you could only see in other people what you can see in your own self. And that was a moment that was a moment in our session, because she was so sure and so proud of herself that she was getting better. And I said to her, I said, Janice, I know you're proud of yourself, and I know you're looking for affirmation, and you got it. And I said, you did this well, and this well, and this well. But as I had told you, it's not like I can order my clients around, but as I strongly suggested to her, I'm a very direct therapist. I said, you have to stop dating. Part of SLDD recovery is it requires an abstinence or a moratorium on sex and dating for a period of time so you can work on your own psychological, personal, emotional issues. Because you can't really make great progress if you are working on your SLDD and you're dating someone. That's like being an alcoholic and still having a couple drinks after work, but no more than a couple drinks. So I said to her, and I picked up my reading glasses, and I said, let me give you an analogy. If you have spent your whole life needing glasses, and let's say your vision was 220, and if any optometrists or ophthalmologists out there, and I'm screwing this up, 220, as I understand, is not good vision. And all of a sudden, and you didn't know you had bad vision, and someone says, Ross, you're missing things because obviously you're not seeing them. And I would say, well, what do you mean? I see everything. My response is equivalent to the codependency, the codependent or the SLD who's never been in therapy. I am going to be convinced that I can see everything because that has been my frame of reference, my experience my whole life. And I'll defend it. So this metaphorical optometrist says, I want you to try these glasses on. And these glasses bring me from 220 to 120. And I put them on and I go, oh my God, I can see I can see the stuff that's in your books. I can even count them. And I never realized you had really, really blue, interesting eyes. I almost said beautiful eyes, but you don't want to say that to your therapist. So the person who has these glasses, they are amazed at how much they can see, and they are so happy. They don't know that they still are myopic or their vision has only been corrected by 50%. Again, they've never had the frame of reference of perfect vision. And they're going to leave that office so happy with what they can now see. Well, that's the case with Janice, is that in our session, I said, you are getting so much better, but you are still stuck. You stopped therapy for a while. You did not heed my advice to stop dating people, but you're still getting better because you're working really hard on this stuff. And she is. And I said, but you could only go as far as your psychological abilities allow you. So you can see in this guy that you're dating that he is a pathological narcissist, and you can see that he's not going to be good for you, and you're going to break up. And you're doing that after 4 or 5 dates. But I say your vision is still 120 20. What happens if, and I'm going back to the metaphor, if I gave you a pair of glasses now and said, try these on, and instead of 120, they get you to 60-20. You're going to go, wow, just when I thought I could see well, I can see everything crystal clear. And the analogy goes on. And then a couple months later, I give her, say 6 months later, I give her a pair of glasses that actually correct her vision and make her 20/20, which is as perfect as vision as most people can see. And now she can read everything and see everything. The healing process, the therapy process, the codependency cure, as I'm writing my book and doing my seminar trainings on, requires us to understand we can only see in others what we can see in ourselves. In other words, if you are severely SLD or codependent, and using my continuum of self scale, which is in my book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, if you're a -5 on the continuum, and we want to get to a -2, which is healthy, the closer you get to 0 on the continuum, the healthier you are getting. Is because you are healing inside. You are resolving the trauma, the distorted thinking, the emotional confusion that is responsible for SLD, SLDD, and SLDD addiction. The further you move on your healing recovery, your healing journey, the more you can see in others. And your magnets change. And so if we understand, using my magnets, that the narcissist and the codependent are always going to be a match. But if you become a healthy codependent, and you start to heal the wounds and the trauma and the addiction that's responsible for it, the polarity shifts. And when you meet a narcissist, you can't really see this, but there's no attraction, and it's going to fall. But, and what I mean by that, and see, I got a paper clip on here. And narcissist, codependent, healthy, codependent narcissist, there's not the attraction. But the reason I show you that is you start to be able to see in others and feel danger when you formerly couldn't see or understand or experience the potential dangers with the narcissist. So the purpose of this video was inspired by the session, which is using the metaphor that she needed glasses her whole life. She needed to solve the trauma and the SLDD addiction and all of the other issues responsible for self-love deficit disorder in order to recognize in others what she couldn't see. And as she got healthier, she could see more and more, but she couldn't discern that she wasn't ready to date yet because her vision wasn't corrected to its max yet. So in closing, to all of the viewers who try so hard and are in so much pain because of their predilection to fall in love with harmful people, I promise you, it won't be the books that you read, including my book. It won't be the therapy you get. The only way that you can solve self-love deficit disorder is find a therapist who can help you resolve the trauma of the child that you used to be, the attachment trauma, who was wounded by your own narcissistic parent, and explore that, and resolve it, and heal it, and let it go. Similarly, is to understand that SLDD is an addiction, and that, like all addictions, it will do anything to keep the drug coming, including making yourself lie or believing your lies. So I hope this video inspired you and clarified that despite your motivation and your desire to get it right and stop dating narcissists, you have to do the inner work, because you can't trust your vision, your metaphorical vision, if you haven't done the work, because you're only going to see what you are capable of seeing. And to the person who has worked through the whole recovery program and they love themselves and they become self-love abundant, have reached self-love abundancy, they can spot the narcissist a mile away. And they've developed what I call a narcissometer, an intuitive and reflexive feeling of danger that is automatic when they're around narcissists. So thank you. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. Excuse me. And I wish you the very best. Happy holidays. And I look forward to our next video.